Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I am very pleased today to rise in this House as the new Minister of Energy, Mines and Petroleum Resources and to support the New Democrat government budget that we tabled just earlier last week. I'm very proud of this budget, but before I move on to my comments on our first budget update, well, our first budget, and it's a budget update, as everybody knows what happened with the election, and moving into September, our first opportunity to deliver a budget. So we'll be delivering our first full one in February for those at home who are watching. But this budget update I'm very proud of, very proud to support, and proud to support as the new Minister of Energy, Mines and Petroleum Resources. Before, as I said, I move into my comments though about the budget, I do want to take this time to say a few words of gratitude to people in my constituency. Honourable Speaker, it's my first opportunity to do so following the election. And so I'd like to especially thank those who get out and volunteer for our democracy, whether it was the two independents who ran, or Tanya Wall, who's the Regional District Director for Area B in the RDCK, who ran for the BC Liberals, or Kim Charlesworth, who ran for the BC Green Party. I want to thank them all for stepping forward and being a part of our democratic process. And I notably want to say, Honourable Speaker, that the volunteers who are a part of that democratic process, who get out with every candidate day after day, whether it's on the doorsteps or in the campaign offices, are just doing it's amazing that these people come forward and volunteer such long hours and work so hard. And so for my team, I especially want to say thank you to Heather Compton, who is my campaign manager. She's been with me the last two campaigns. She comes out every time for New Democrats, and she delivers, and we are so grateful to have her on our team. Sherry Nicholson has been my financial agent the last two elections. She's been volunteering as our Constituency Association Treasurer, Honourable Speaker, for about 7 years now. And I always say that for all of us, our financial agents have a special place in heaven, because that job is extremely demanding. There's no end of forms to fill out, no end of dollars and cents to track, and they do a tremendous job. And I'm very grateful to Sherry Nicholson for the work that she does on a volunteer basis, Honourable Speaker, for those of us in Nelson Creston. I have a very long list, Honourable Speaker, so I'm going to first say to Curtis Bendig and Lori Langell, just amazing people. I love being on campaigns with them. They are amazing volunteers and really help make the democratic process work. Allison, Aaron, John, Rita, Becky, Brenda, Enid, Stan, Jesse, Byron, Janice, Ann. You guys are all amazing, and thank you so much for being in that campaign office or out in the field every single day, whether it was answering questions of those who came into the office, making sure the office was open, or getting out on the doorstep. You guys, you humble me every election with the amount of volunteer hours that you put in. Honourable Speaker, I would be remiss if I was a terrible wife and forgot my husband, Zach Madieshin, who does all of this every step of the way with me and is just the best friend I think anybody could ever have. And I love him dearly, and I'm so glad that I get to call him my husband. And Honourable Speaker, last but so far from the least are my amazing constituency assistants who are in the office every day serving the people of Nelson Crescent, serving the Kootenays. And I think every single member in this House appreciates their CAs and knows that we would never, ever be able to do the work that we do on behalf of the citizens of British Columbia without our constituency assistants. And so let me take this moment to say a huge thank you to Tessa Bendig, Lori Langell, and Jessie Pinheiro, who was filling in for Tessa Bendig this last year while she was on a maternity leave with her new little one, Ori. And they are just the amazing faces that people get to see, they get to interact with, and who help them every day in the constituency. Honourable Speaker, I also want to do a couple of community shout-outs. So this year was my 15th year at Kootenay Pride, And of course, Kootenay Pride Parade has been going on for longer than 15 years, but it was quite young when I first started marching in Kootenay Pride. And I remember that few people lined the streets, and in fact, some people shared messages of hate as we walked down the streets of Nelson, proud of our diversity in the community. Well, fast forward to today, Honorable Speaker, just 15 years later, and Baker Street is lined from beginning to end of people celebrating our community's diversity, our rainbow sidewalks, our rainbow flags. They are all over for the entire Pride weekend. We decorate the constituency office, and I'm just so pleased to say that after 15 years to see the change and support and love for human rights in the Kootenays has just grown and grown and grown, and that truly is something to be proud of, Honorable Speaker. I also want to shout out to the Creston Fall Fair, because I wasn't able to make it this year because we were delivering our speech from the throne, and hopefully I'll get some opportunity to have comments on that as well later on in the session. But the Creston Fall Fair, the agricultural fair, is just a wonderful opportunity. If you or anybody in this House ever finds himself in Creston, normally the first week of September, that is their opportunity to really take in the incredible agriculture that I've been talking about for years in this legislature that exists in the Creston Valley. And we grow everything in the Creston Valley, whether it's asparagus, whether it's carrots, Honorable Speaker, wheat, whether it's ranching, or even oranges, Honorable Speaker. Yes, you can find oranges, you can find citrus fruit in some of the greenhouses in the Creston Valley. We take great pride that we grow the best food that you'll ever eat. And oh yes, I was just reminded by a colleague sitting nearby that her favorite is the Kootenay Meadows cheese. Alpenden, my personal favorite, although some people love the Nostrala. And if you actually go to the farm, Honorable Speaker, you can get the Mountain Grana. But I digress from the budget at that point quite a ways, Honorable Speaker. But before I come back to the budget, let me just say, Caslo Jazz Fest, you did it again, another amazing year. About 300 volunteers, thousands of volunteer hours make that happen. Shambhala Music Festival is turning out to be one of the world premier electronic music festival in Salmo, of all places. You might not think as you drive by Salmo that it's hosting a world-class music festival, but it is, because that's how we do it in Salmo, Honorable Speaker. And 75 years of the Balfour Ferry Landing. We celebrated that this spring. It was very exciting. We almost lost that ferry landing just over a year ago, but the community was very vociferous in their pushback to government of the day that just taking out that ferry landing would have destroyed so many small businesses, and that we get to keep that was definitely cause for celebration this year, Honorable Speaker. So, back to our budget. And I mentioned that I'm very proud to support this budget. It's great to be able to rise and feel confident in what's being put forward is going to deliver on the very things that I heard on the doorstep in May and April, Honorable Speaker. One of the things I heard a lot about was access to post-secondary education. And a lot of people couldn't even get their foot in the door at Selkirk College because for a program, for example, University Science Transfer, or nursing, very popular program at Selkirk College, Honorable Speaker, or some of the trades programs, because they all required, those individuals required some upgrading, some high school upgrading. Adult basic education. It used to be free, Honorable Speaker. When I started in this place in 2009, it was one thing that I could always support the then Liberal government on, was that adult basic education and English language learning, was free. That meant that people, no matter what their income, could get their foot in the door so they could get to post-secondary education and they could get the job that they wanted to get, Honorable Speaker. And what we know is that 80% of jobs today require some level of post-secondary education. So if you want a job, and if you want a good paying job, Honorable Speaker, you need post-secondary training. But if you did not have the grades in high school for whatever reason, or you're a mature student and you need to do that upgrading, it's required, and you could not afford adult basic education, basically, Honorable Speaker, you were not allowed to better your life. That was what was happening structurally, systematically, Honorable Speaker. And so I was on the doorstep. One gentleman in Creston, I remember him telling me, I saw him on the doorstep, and then we had a conversation there, and then he came back actually to the campaign office, and he wanted to tell me more about his situation. And Honorable Speaker, Creston has College of the Rockies program in that community, and for him, he was wanting to better his life, get a better paying job, and he wanted to do some preliminary university studies. But before he could do that, he was a mature student, before he could do that, he required some adult basic education. Honorable Speaker, he was working a minimum wage job. He was struggling to pay his rent, and Creston is nowhere near the cost of living that Vancouver is. So I just want to highlight that, because that affordability crisis isn't just a Lower Mainland issue, it's a BC-wide issue. It's happening in the rural communities I represent, and you only need to look at the recent census data to see that, Honorable Speaker. But anyway, I didn't need to look at this recent census data because I had somebody in my campaign office telling me right then and there how the cost of ABE, the new cost that was put on by the BC Liberal government, was impacting his life and preventing him from getting the opportunities that he should have, Honorable Speaker. And so, when we announced that we were going to be funding adult basic education and English language learning so that it was free for all British Columbians, I think it was literally 3 minutes after I put it up on Facebook, Honorable Speaker, that this gentleman was right on there posting his elation at the fact that he would now be able to register for this September for ABE, so that he could go back to school, so that he could go back and get his degree and get the job that he wanted, a good paying job, Honorable Speaker. That's the difference that this budget is making in people's lives. Honorable Speaker, that's one story, but let me share with you some more. As you'll remember, Honorable Speaker, for the last 4 years, I stood in opposition, and I was the critic for social development, and took on the role of advocating for people with disabilities and for advocating for poverty reduction in this province. This is something that I did prior to my time as an elected official when I was running the Nelson Food Cupboard, a small food bank. It's a little food bank that could feed thousands of people out of the corner of the basement of the Nelson United Church. Still does, Honorable Speaker. So I saw poverty walk in and out of the door of that food bank every day back from 2003 to 2005. I came here, and from 2013 to 2017 sat as the critic for social development, introduced legislation for a poverty reduction plan 5 times. I believe I did that, Honorable Speaker, and regularly, year after year after year in the budget estimates process, asked about raising the rates for people with disabilities and people on income assistance. And year after year, no raise came in. Finally, a raise came in, but so did the bus pass clawback at the same time, taking away most of that raise, Honorable Speaker. And what happened in that meantime is that poverty deepened and deepened and deepened, particularly for people with disabilities. And in my view, Honorable Speaker, that's just wrong. Just because somebody has a disability doesn't mean that they should be poor. I think we can do better than that in our society in 2017, Honorable Speaker. And we are. We are, because this budget is increasing disability and income assistance rates by $100 a month. Honorable Speaker, that's on top of the existing increases that were announced previously. We are also increasing earnings exemptions so that people with disabilities and people on income assistance are able to get their foot in the door with employment opportunities. They can get a part-time job and eventually maybe make that a full-time job. I have heard, I can't even begin to tell you the number of people I have heard that would have made all the difference in their lives. Just to be able to keep an extra $200 a month, just $200 a month, if they could keep that from a part-time job, what that would mean for their monthly expenses, how that would help to lift them out of poverty. So many stories along those lines, Honorable Speaker. It's hard to even pull out just one, but I know there's one young woman who I've been working with very closely and getting to know over the last, several, sorry. They're just kind of, I'm thinking about all of them all of a sudden, Honorable Speaker. But this one young woman, Sheena Morrison, and she's visited this house. She's become a regular in this house, and she's just a tireless self-advocate, and not only for herself, but for people with disabilities across this province. And I want to let everybody know that they have an amazing advocate in Sheena Morrison, and that she's here all the time, and she has the ear of, I think, every member now. Yeah. She's taken selfies with, I think, every single one of us. And she has been a force behind this decision to increase disability and income assistance rates, to increase earnings exemptions. And another thing in the budget, Honorable Speaker, is to end that bus pass clawback. So way to go, Sheena, you did it. Way to go, Tabitha Naismith. Way to go, so many people all across this province. Nick Toner in my riding, who is just an incredible advocate for people with disabilities. The list goes on, Honorable Speaker. I worked with so many people for 4 years, and I want to say way to go, because the changes in this budget reflect all the advocacy that you all did. And I'm so proud to support your advocacy. I'm so proud to support the results of your advocacy that are in this budget. Honorable Speaker, another item in this budget that I'm really pleased about and got some feedback on just last weekend at the Nelson Farmers Market is the cut to medical service premiums. And this is an idea who's in our path to actually eliminate MSP. That's long overdue. The Liberals had an attempt at this in their promised budget before the election, but it was quite complicated, and you'd have to apply, and then once you did apply, like, you had to be eligible, and it was only a certain group of people, and so on. We've made this simple. We're just cutting it in half, and we're beginning the process to eliminate MSP like every other province in Canada, Honorable Speaker. So I'm going to tell you what this meant for a woman who came up to me at the farmer's market on Saturday. She unfortunately lost her job. It was a union job, so she never, in her collective agreement, her MSP premiums were being paid for by her employer. So she actually never had to pay her MSP premiums directly herself. But she lost her job, Honorable Speaker, and she's got a new job, which is, I'm very glad to say, that she found another job. But this job does not have that same type of collective agreement or benefits, and as a result, she's paying MSP directly. And she came up to me and said, "Is my new job pays less than my previous job? And I can't afford this. I can't afford this." And I looked at her and said, "And you won't have to, because we're going to cut MSP in January 1st, and we're going to eliminate it." And she's like, "I know. Thank you. Thank you so much." And she was so glad, because in her life, she was going to have a little bit more at the end of the day to pay her bills, to put food on the table, and do stuff that a lot of other people take for granted. Go to the movies with her husband, for example. Have a date night with her husband. Everybody should be able to enjoy a little bit of fun in this world, Honourable Speaker, and that's what that's going to mean for her. Honourable Speaker, something else I heard a lot about in this election, and I know that as soon as I say it, members opposite are probably, well, if I'm lucky enough, they might start heckling, Honourable Speaker, but I want to take note and to the many parents who came up to me and to talk to me about two things, Honourable Speaker, education and childcare. On education, we're delivering. We're working with teachers. We're working with school boards. That's the commitment that you can get from the NDP government, Honourable Speaker. I'm so fortunate, Honourable Speaker. I'm getting heckled. It's not by who I thought I might, but thanks all the same for paying attention. The other item, Honourable Speaker, is childcare. And so many parents came out, they got organized, we had stroller brigades for childcare. And moving BC to a universal childcare system is no small task. And I'm going to tell you that members in the Green Caucus and members in the NDP government, we are working together, and we are looking forward to delivering on a program for British Columbians. That is coming, and it's going to be a program that is rooted in early childhood education, that has the support of parents, that has the support of early childhood educators, Honourable Speaker. And I'm very much looking forward to working with the people in my community and the people in this House to deliver, finally, Honourable Speaker, we first started talking about universal childcare in this country in 1970.
Wow.
Long before I was even born, Honourable
Wow.
Speaker, and I don't think I'm spring chicken anymore. And so, Honourable Speaker, that we're finally going to be able to deliver on this item is extremely exciting, and I know that the parents back home are with us every step of the way, and they're excited too, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I did want to address something that I heard from another member. I believe it was the member for Kootenay East, actually. I was listening to his speech, and one of the things that he brought up that I did want to take a few minutes to address was the tolls on the Port Mann and Golden Ear Bridge. Now, we've eliminated those tolls. Anybody who crosses those bridges, whether they live in Surrey or Maple Ridge or Coquitlam or Nelson or Creston or Cranbrook, anybody who's ever crossing those bridges will not have to pay tolls anymore, Honourable Speaker. And the way how that member characterized it was that his constituents were paying for the transportation needs of people in the Lower Mainland, Honourable Speaker. And I'm really getting tired of this urban versus rural dichotomy that the BC Liberals, that this narrative that they're trying to put forward, Honourable Speaker. We're one province. We're one province.
Hear, hear.
We are British Columbia.
Hear, hear.
And we are proud British Columbians. And as a rural MLA, I stand with my members, with my caucus members, with members from urban ridings on the issues that matter to them as they stand with me and you on the issues that matter to us in rural BC. And to give that member opposite an example of that, Honourable Speaker, is that would he like a bridge in his riding tolled? Would he like a road in his riding tolled, Honourable Speaker? I don't think so. And if he thinks that they would, I'll remind him of what happened in 2001, 2002, when the BC Liberal government suggested tolling the Kootenay Lake Ferry. Oh, we got mad, Honourable Speaker, in Nelson Creston. We got really mad. And you know what happened at the end of the day? It was urban members from the New Democrat opposition of 2 at the time who took our rural voice to this House, not our own Liberal MLA. And we kept tolls off of our ferry. We kept tolls off of our ferry, Honourable Speaker. And that's why a new Democrat government is taking tolls off of the golden years and the Port Mann Bridge, Honorable Speaker, because we are one province, and it's not fair that one community pays tolls while others don't. We shouldn't, Honorable Speaker. So I'm very proud that we've delivered on that. And I'm very proud of the New Democrat members back in 2001, 2002 who stood up for my riding. Honorable Speaker, there are so many ways that we need to be making life more affordable and building good jobs on good projects, Honorable Speaker. And I believe that there are many ways that we can accomplish this. But I want to talk about some of the ways that we're going to be accomplishing that in my ministry. And I'm very proud of the work that we've already got started doing, Honorable Speaker. One of the things that I'm working on right now with my staff is establishing the BC Mining Jobs Task Force. And one of the things that we need to do in this province is that we need to ensure that mining jobs, that we're creating mining jobs and that we're keeping mining jobs, Honorable Speaker. We have to ensure that we have a straightforward process for the mining industry. We have to make sure that communities and First Nations are on board with that process, and that industry is working with communities and First Nations. And you know what, Honorable Speaker, I have to say I'm incredibly impressed with the way that industry, for the most part, does exactly that. And not too long ago, I was touring tech in the Kootenays, in my own backyard. I'm heading out, that was the west side that I recently went to, and I'm off to the east side soon enough, Honorable Speaker. And these are family supporting jobs at Tech, Honorable Speaker. And Tech is a fantastic example of a good industry leader on so many fronts. And one of the fronts is how they can actually meet our climate change goals, our GHG reduction targets, Honorable Speaker. And I look forward to working with Tech and others in the industry on that issue, on ensuring that mining jobs are sustainable, on ensuring that we are not just creating, but we are keeping those good family supporting jobs, Honorable Speaker. One of the other items in my mandate letter, Honorable Speaker, is to create a roadmap for the future of BC energy. There is no doubt about it. We have a tremendous amount of opportunity with renewable resources for renewable energy in this province, Honorable Speaker. We are just at the beginning of what that's going to be. First Nations have actually taken the lead on this, and we're going to be working with First Nations. We're going to be working with so many people, Honorable Speaker, to make that happen. I see that my time is almost up, but let me tell you, I had a very long list of all kinds of things that we're going to be doing in my ministry to work on making life more affordable and creating good jobs, Honorable Speaker. I'm going to list them off quickly. Reinvigorating the Innovative Clean Energy Fund, developing an improved and properly resourced approvals process to assess mining applications. Let's get those projects going. Honorable Speaker, LNG, for so many years, the Liberals made big promises and never delivered. Meanwhile, our competitiveness went down. We're going to be addressing those issues, and we're phasing out PST on electricity. Honorable Speaker, we have a mining flow-through share tax credit that's extended for a year, and we have a mining exploration tax credit that's going to be expanded and including costs incurred for environmental studies and community consultations, Honorable Speaker. And we're going to ensure that whatever we do, we are working hand in hand with First Nations and communities. Because, Honorable Speaker, building a better BC isn't just a government task, it's all of our task. And First Nations are meaningful partners. It's time government worked with them in that fashion. I am extremely excited at the prospect of what it means to be at the beginning of an era of reconciliation and to build on UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and to truly build a better BC with First Nations, with communities. We're going to get it done. I'm very excited, and I'm excited to support this budget.